Hello to all of our brokers. It's great to have you listening in onto this Tuesday, and I think this is going to be a really interesting one. And a big well done to Greg and Christiana and Checho, who are going to be presenting, particularly our two grads that are presenting. And we have a panel of experts coming in from all over the world. So a really good session, enjoy it, and I'm going to keep quiet and over to you guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Sorry, who is it?
Good morning. Someone isn't muted.
Okay.
Morning, everybody. Welcome to our Tuesday for today. Today we're going to be doing prize indemnity, and Greg Dillon is the lead on events and drones, and Christiana and Sefil will be joining us on the graduate program, so they will be doing their part of today. So welcome, good luck, breathe, all will be good, all will be fine. And then I'm sure you're all eager to know that there will be a prize, that will be a mystery prize at the end of this session. And please be aware that you need to stay online in order to qualify for the prize. So we look forward to having you guys online for the next hour. Over to you, Greg.
Wonderful, Charles. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. And welcome to all our brokers on this November Tuesday, heading towards the end of the year. And it's really good to see such a wonderful turnout. So thank you to all of you for taking the time and making the effort. Let me tell you a little bit about our I2 graduate program. I think it's very relevant today, and you'll see why. That I2 has for 2021 invested in the recruitment and development of graduates with a view to establishing a talent pipeline of young people who will become future leaders and fill scarce skill roles within the organization and the insurance industry at large. In recent years, we have distinguished ourselves as an organization to which the best people want to come to, choose to stay at, importantly, and while here, shoot the proverbial lights out. We passionately believe in people's potential, and we strive for their growth in new and positive directions. We aim to provide platforms where our tours can contribute intellectually and bring their ideas and their thinking horsepower to the table. Relevant today, indeed. Today we have our homegrown talent, Checho Kibine and Christiana Cavalieri, who are part of the 2021 graduate program and are busy rotating through the I2 business and product lines. And unfortunately for them, they ended up in events at the exact time that I needed some help on I2's prize indemnity presentation. So here they are today, and they're going to share their thoughts, their research, their insights into this fun and exciting form of event insurance. So over to you, Christiana.
Thanks. So, human beings' primal desire to compete can be traced back to the basic principles of evolution. To survive, all organisms on the planet must constantly compete for resources. But where fellow terrestrials use play to stimulate their competitive skills, such as hunting or fighting, human beings have taken their zest for competition many steps further. So, what is prize indemnity insurance? Well, it is a form of indemnification insurance for a promotion in which participants are afforded the opportunity to win prizes. There is a specified action and a specified outcome. If the outcome is achieved by means of the specified action, the prize will be awarded. In other words, the claim will be processed, provided that all of the policy wording, terms and conditions have been adhered to. Prize indemnity allows for a risk transfer. It affords companies the opportunity to give away high value prizes that they may not have otherwise had the financial means to offer. The insured transfers the risk to I2 by paying a premium. And if the claim is valid, I2 will award the prize. Prize indemnity also acts as a form of protection in a manner that is twofold. Firstly, the insured is protected against their contractual liability to award a prize in the event of a win. Secondly, the actual prize winner is protected, as there is a guarantee that the earned prize will be received because I2 is willing to pay for it. I mentioned earlier that a determining factor as to whether I2 pays out the claim or not is dependent on whether all of the policy terms and conditions have been adhered to. The information provided in the proposal form sets the basis for these terms and conditions. It is essential that these conditions are strict and clear. If there has been one single condition that has been overlooked, it could result in the entire policy cover being voided. As mentioned, sorry about that. Speaking specifically to the premium, the information on the proposal form also contributes to the calculation of a premium. The premium charged is, of course, over and above the limit of indemnity, which is the actual prize value. Now, in some cases, statistical data needs to be incorporated into the calculation of the premium. And this is so that the premium reflects or takes into account the odds of a win. And these odds do vary based on the type of event and the skills required to complete the task successfully. So the limit of indemnity is equal to the insured's potential loss, meaning that a win for a participant is a loss for the insurer. So their gain is actually our pain. Now, I know that this has been an extensive introduction into prize indemnity insurance. So I will now hand over to my colleague Tseho, who will run you through I2's prize indemnity policy particulars.
Thanks, Chris. So guys, having had a brief look at what prize indemnity entails, the key to understanding this product begins with the policy wording. It is important to note that this wording needs to be read together with the schedule, the combination of which represents the entire policy that you have. So the insuring agreement. Now, only loss in relation to the risk covered, which was declared by the insured and is stated in the schedule, will trigger this policy. We as I2 need to know exactly the level of risk we have underwritten, as it is material insofar as our pricing goes. It's crucial that the insured understands its own risk so that when they declare it to us, it is accurate to ensure appropriate cover is placed. Of course, indemnification is subject always to all terms and conditions, as well as the limitations and exclusions contained in the policy wording. Obviously, this audience is familiar with the concept of a deductible or excess. So this amount doesn't necessarily apply to prize indemnity and is generally stated in the schedule as nil. Moving on to conditions precedent to liability. A condition that is precedent to I2's liability is a condition that directly affects our response to a claim. If these kinds of conditions are not complied with, the liability of I2 in respect of that claim is discharged, and we will no longer be liable to settle the claim. I've identified three main conditions precedent to our liability that I thought were worth mentioning. So firstly, it is a condition precedent to our liability that the insured has no knowledge at policy inception of any undisclosed fact or circumstance that could or does increase the possibility of a claim arising. The information for this condition is mainly drawn from the proposal form, as there is a specific question regarding same. It is important to note that this section of the prop form has a material effect on risk rating and pricing. Therefore, compliance with this condition must necessarily be precedent to our liability. Secondly, the payment of a premium is a condition precedent to our liability. Now, this may be oversimplifying things a bit, but we charge a premium to cover risk. If there is no premium, how can we cover your risk exposure? Lastly, It is a condition precedent to our liability that legal liability to a third party is present. This is because our policy is a guarantee to the winning third party that they will certainly receive the prize because I too is willing to pay out. As Chris said, their gain is our pain, but their gain, any legal liability claim they have against the insured, has to be at stake for this competition, for this condition. So now general conditions. Again, I have cherry-picked the general conditions I feel are important in understanding the wording. Firstly, no insurance offering the same indemnity in respect of the risk covered can be in effect without the prior written consent of I2. Secondly, payments that are due to third parties will be made directly to them. Next, we need to understand that directors, officers, employees, these are all people who are in the position to manipulate the outcome of the risk covered and are, under the policy wording, ineligible for any payment associated with the risk covered. Lastly, we have fraudulent claims. There are consequences for the submission of such a claim, and we will have certain rights of recourse. If the insured makes a fraudulent claim, we are not liable to pay the claim, and we may recover from the insured any sums we have paid with respect to the claim, and we may, by notice to the insured, treat the policy as having been terminated with effect from the time of the fraudulent act. It's like fixing a competition to ensure a guaranteed winner, then turning around to claim from us. A loss adjuster will come in at claim stage to verify the merits of the claim. Fraudulent claims will not slip through the cracks. Moving on to exclusions. We base our cover on the proposed risk and the possibility of it giving rise to a claim. It therefore makes sense that two big exclusions relate to the above. Firstly, any and all variations of the risk covered that is noted in the schedule done without our prior approval is excluded under this policy. This is because it affects a big part of the proposal form. It changes the proposed risk and therefore prejudices us. Secondly, any actions or general behavior of the insured that materially increases the possibility of a claim beyond what was previously declared to and agreed by us is also excluded under the policy. Two other important exclusions are that of contractual liability and misrepresentation or concealment by the insured. When I say contractual liability, I mean that it's liability that arises from the operation of a contract undertaken by the insured. More specifically, we look to avoid settling claims arising out of a breach of contract or any contractual disputes that may arise. Misrepresentation and concealment by the insured ties back not only to the fraud exclusion, but to the fraud condition in the policy wording, both which reiterates one thing, clearly and unequivocally. We can only and will only deal with honest claims made in good faith. The claims procedure. So I2 needs to be notified of a claim in writing as soon as possible. The language used by this clause is a bit open-ended, with as soon as possible, giving the insured just a little leeway as to when a claim should be notified. This is as opposed to giving a certain time frame within which to notify us. What does as soon as possible mean to you? What does it mean to your client? And what does it mean to us? Now, in order for us to discharge our obligation to settle a claim, the insured must provide proof of loss. Now, proof of loss must include written confirmation that the risk we are covering was carried out in compliance with the contents of the policy wording. Of course, these are the terms, conditions, limitations, and exclusions contained therein. Plus, all documentation and records necessary to establish and assess indemnity forms part of proof of loss. Now, I've monologued for quite a bit, so I'd like to hand you over to Greg, who will give you a little more insight into the entire events product cluster.
Thank you, Sergio and Christiana. Not easy to summarize the detail around the product or in particular the policy wording, but great job to both of you for doing that. It sets the scene for the fun bits, which are going to come a little bit later. So thanks for that. Time for a quick advert break. I2 Events product offering is not only about prize indemnity, and I just wanted to remind everyone and reiterate that we do offer events liability, which is where we really started the events program way back in 2016, 2017. And that's nice to see a pickup in the volumes of requests coming through as we've stepped into this new sort of, or out of the old lockdown regulations. The clients through the broker fraternity are now requesting a lot more event liability. We are particularly seeing once-offs. I think people are still reluctant and a little bit reticent on long-term planning. Their fingers have been burnt by the shutdown. And so it's a lot of once-off event liability requests that we're seeing, but there are some renewals flowing through. So thank you for that and keep them coming. Just to remind you also that event cancellation or contingency is part of our offering in the broader context. And what is exciting is that we're actually starting to see a couple of big cancellation requests coming through for 2022. And that means that people are starting to plan ahead. Given the context of the money that needs to be spent, the expenses incurred in planning your events, the cancellation policy is a great belts and braces, peace of mind, sleep easy policy to buy, and something to really talk to your clients about going forward. And I think one of the things we are starting to do now is start to emerge into a more digital environment with the I2 offering. And for us, that means that we're starting to take some of the products that manually we used to underwrite and put them into more a digital portal context. So for us, that means that I2 is going digital across the business. And if I can make mention very quickly from that point of view, that we're positioning this more as a white label approach. And for you as brokers, that means it's easier to launch the products than perhaps through the I2 portal itself. But please remember, time is needed to build the products into this digital platform and an environment, as we call it, with a broker partner. So if you do intend to go down that road, start early, bring us into the conversation, and we can start to consider what is appropriate in those contexts for you. And we would love to engage with you early in the new year. I think we'll be in a very good position to do that. And in particular, from an events point of view, we've got a hole-in-one, which is obviously relevant to today's discussion, which is going to be purely driven through the digital platform. We've got what we're calling a vanilla risk on event liability, which is probably more the easier underwriting that's going to be applied into the events liability digital platform. And then something that's close to my heart that I've been working hard on is the ticket refund product, which is going to be a great one for us in 2022. So just wanted to do a little advert break there before we move back to prize indemnity. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Greg. So speaking of digital, we recently caught up with Sean Curtis and Robin Lang from Tokyo Marine in the US. So Tokyo Marine 2 years ago purchased a company called the $1 Million Media Company. And through them, they've been exposed to up and coming trends, and they just spoke a bit about it. So enjoy.
I think their biggest success is with building digital games, online games. So you go in and alcohol is mainly alcohol, beverage in general, but mainly alcohol is big. So Heineken, Dos Equis, Robin, I don't know, 5 or 6 others. You go in and you buy a 6-pack or a case, and on pack there's this code, and then you go online and you put in that code and you see if you've won, or you go in and you play a game that they've built. Now, you think that you're on the Heineken site or the Dos Equis site, but ultimately you're really on an MDM site that's built to look like Heineken. And so it creates this, the more entries you get, the more you buy and so forth. And so they've got this team of and really roster of things that they can pull from and just kind of tweak a bit and reskin or what have you. These digital games just creates a huge buzz. I just think the interaction with consumers and brands through digital engagement is becoming bigger and bigger. Now, again, there's an investment in that. We have a team of 3 people in that company that are building these games, and I mean 20, 30 a day, and for all these different brands. But that seems to be a huge differentiator for us, when you can just say to someone, here's 7 or 12 different options. Oh, and we can customize this game for you right now, where you have to put an order, for example, a furniture store, the living room, the bedroom, the dining room, the foyer, what have you, and you put them in the right order, and you get 12 different rooms. And if you've done that, you won $10,000, or you win a free trip to Hawaii, or whatever it may be. That's the kind of stuff that they do every day, and that's really up and coming, because I think just a digital application is really where everyone is going these days, and it creates such loyalty.
And that is so true. I mean, we all know that the way of the world is digital nowadays. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, especially for prize indemnity insurance. We can get quite creative with all of that. So before we move on to different types of prize indemnity, I would just like to differentiate between pure probability events and skills-based events. It is important to note that both of these events are insurable. Insurers tend to prefer pure probability events as they are easier to rate on, due to the fact that the chance of a win or a loss, depending on from whose perspective you're looking from, can be statistically calculated with great accuracy. And examples of pure probability games include an envelope pick and a roulette spin. On the other hand, we have skills-based events. An example is your hole-in-one. These are slightly more challenging to rate on and are certainly more versatile. Rating on such events usually requires pre-collected historical and current data, as well as drawing from information that we've received through the proposal form. Such information collected in the prop form includes the number of individuals playing, the distance from the tee to the hole, the actual prize value, and the stroke difficulty. As mentioned, strict and clear guidelines need to be in place, and these appear as rules or subjectivities on the policy schedule. I2's hole-in-one rules include the fact that each participant only gets 1 attempt with no practice shots. There can be no favorable pin positions or specially prepared greens. The specified equipment must be used. All players must be amateurs. Although having said this, I2 can and will quote on professional hole-in-ones and will just underwrite accordingly. There need to be 2 independent witnesses watching the shot, one standing at the tee and one standing at the hole. A confirmation that a hole-in-one has actually occurred needs to be provided, and each shot needs to be recorded in a time-stamped and dated video. These rules are in place so that I2 ensures a fair premium that is reflective of the particulars of the event at hand.
Sorry, Chris, can I jump in for a moment?
Sure.
Sorry, guys, we're having technical difficulties. I heard you couldn't see me earlier, so here's my face. So I think right now is a good time to highlight that we as I2 are experts in the business of risk. And part of that is managing our own exposures through the subjectivities that Chris has just spoken to. These subjectivities not only allow us to manage our exposures, but they also ensure a claims experience that is not only fair to us, but more importantly to you and your clients. I mean, would you trust us as experts in the business of risk if we cannot effectively manage our own exposures? We need these subjectivities because we are experts and we can be trusted as such.
Exactly. Thank you for that. And, you know, I mean, there are a number of subjectivities for all the different types of prize indemnity, but in the interest of time, I will just run through a few examples. So the most common form of prize indemnity is your hole-in-one. And in March of this year, I too paid out a claim of 100,000 Rand to the winner of a hole-in-one that actually took place in George at the Fan Court Golf Club. And I would like to make mention of the winner because he took about 30 to 40% of his prize money and donated it to various charities in his surrounding area, which I think really is such a great initiative. And on behalf of I2, I'd just like to thank him for his selflessness and support. Contract and performance bonus is another form of prize indemnity. This is a form of additional compensation paid to an individual or a team as a reward for achieving specific goals or hitting predetermined targets. An example of this is included in the riders' contracts at Onassis Racing. To give you a bit of background, Brad Onassis is a South African MotoGP drag racing legend turned entrepreneur. And his company is really an incubator of successful riders, manufacturers, and corporate sponsors. An example of a contract or performance bonus clause in the riders' contracts is as follows. If a rider wins the 2021 Motor America Supersport Championship and wins 50% of the races in the championship, he or she is eligible to the performance bonus. Event fulfillment is another form of prize indemnity. Here, the prize is awarded if an event happens according to pre-stipulated conditions. An example is back in 2019, Takealot ran a competition in the spirit of the Rugby World Cup. And Takealot said to their customers, come and purchase a Samsung television. And if the Springboks win the Rugby World Cup, you can get your money back. So the Boks obviously won the Rugby World Cup, and Takealot ended up paying out almost 4 million Rand across a various number of customers. Now, a testament to how odds can differ, the odds of the Springboks making it to the world final, let's say it differs ever so slightly compared to the odds of Bafana making it to the world final. But I don't want to step on anyone's toes, so I'll just leave the odds to your imagination.
Yeah, no, you're playing a very dangerous game.
I think so. I think I should be quiet. Sorry, another example that I'd also like to share is that of audience participation. So a few years ago, I think it was actually a couple of years ago, the Blue Bulls were playing in a tournament, and at halftime, 3 random audience members were pulled onto the field, and they were tasked with kicking a rugby ball from the halfway line into the back of a bucky. Now, a condition was that the ball had to remain in the back of the bucky and not bounce out. One of the audience members actually achieved this and walked away with a big smile and the cash prize of 100,000 Rand. But the mind really can run wild with these competitions, and by no means is it limited to the halfway line on a sports pitch or field. Flexibility is one of the many benefits of prize indemnity competitions. So just for fun, I thought I would include one of I2's favorite examples, that of the pumpkin. So in April of this year, I2 paid out the prize value of 50,000 Rand to the winner of the Heidelberg Giant Pumpkin Festival. And giant is certainly right. The winning pumpkin, named Tornado, weighed in at a whopping 867.5 kilograms and broke the South African record for the heaviest pumpkin ever grown on South African soil.
So, Chris, how How many pumpkin pies do you think I could get out of that?
You know what, T, that's a good question. And you've certainly given me pumpkin to think about. So, admittedly, I too insured for a pumpkin weighing in at 860 kilograms. And we really didn't think that anyone would come anywhere near the 860 kilograms. Obviously, we were proved wrong when Tornado came along. And so the prize value was paid out, which means that all of the conditions had been met. A few of these conditions included that the scales had to be calibrated, the weigh-in needed to be filmed, the winning pumpkin needed to be undamaged, healthy, and free of any and all foreign matter. So, for example, wax. And the vine needed to be trimmed 2.5 centimeters from the stalk. And it needed to be deemed a South African record by a recognizable organization. An example of prize indemnity in the US is that of March Madness Perfect Bracket. March Madness is an American college basketball single elimination tournament in which 68 of the best college basketball teams compete in 7 rounds to the national championship. March Madness began all the way back in 1939 and has grown to become one of the biggest events of the year for the prize indemnity insurance market. The most famous type of prize indemnity competition in March Madness is that of Perfect Bracket. And this involves guessing the exact outcome of each and every game in the tournament. And if this is achieved, the prize will be awarded. The odds for guessing the perfect bracket are often quoted to be 1 in 9.2 quintillion. As you can imagine, these are very attractive odds from the insurer's perspective. And to date, no one has ever won. I actually read recently that the average American has a much higher chance to becoming the American president than they are to guess the perfect bracket in March Madness. So speaking of all the sport, the question may spring to mind, but what is the difference between prize indemnity and sports betting, and gambling for that matter? Tokyo Marine's Sean and Robin spoke to us.
Are consumer laws that you have to follow if you're going to be running a consumer promotion, where there is you can't require a consumer to make a purchase. If you are, requiring them as the mode of entry to make a purchase, you have to provide an alternate means of entry, which means that you have to give equal dignity, equal opportunity for every person to win the prize. So if I was a consumer and I didn't want to, buy this furniture, I can enter by sending a 3x5 card, mailing it in, and that's my free method of entry. And if the Red Sox win the World Series, then I would get something that would be equivalent to an average sale, like a gift certificate. Whereas sports betting, you have to pay in order to make that, in order to make a bet, to win back whatever the payout is. So I think that that's probably the biggest distinguishing factor. Although there are some gray areas, because here in Massachusetts, and it's also by state, there are various laws that are different for every single state. Here in Massachusetts, Jordan's Furniture has set precedents because they actually don't provide an alternate means of entry. And in order to enter the promotion or be eligible for the promotion, you have to make a purchase of this furniture. And so the way that, and it's gone to court. People have sued them for, lottery laws and for violation of consumer law. But the way that they had presented this to and actually won the case was by saying, well, these consumers, they're not being harmed in any way. They're going to make a purchase of the furniture anyway. So in reality, they have an opportunity to get this for free, as opposed to, having to pay as an entry into the promotion. And so they've set precedents, and here, at least here in Massachusetts, that's okay. But if you are to, run a regular consumer promotion, you can't say, Like Coca-Cola will run a promotion if like under the cap type of promotion, you know, buy a Coke under the cap, see if you won. But they will always provide an alternate way to enter if you don't want to buy a Coke. And then whether that's entering online, but it has to be some sort of free method of entry. And then, you know, for sports gambling, it's you know, actually paying something in order to win a certain payout based on the odds.
So that's the biggest consideration is the distinguishing factor.
Consideration.
You know?
So I hope that clarified it a bit for everyone. I mean, the line between the three, it's a very thin line. So yeah, but I mean, we learned a lot by speaking to Robin and Sean. So thanks a lot to them for their help. So a Joker jackpot competition is a really popular form of prize indemnity competition, especially amongst golf clubs, tennis clubs, and the like. So this competition involves a deck of cards being placed face down on a surface, and one of the Joker cards is pinned face up. The participant is tasked with finding the other Joker card in the remaining 51 cards. And if the Joker is found, the prize will be awarded. Now, this sounds simple and easy enough to do, but one has to remember the odds, which in this case are 1 in 51. And that translates to approximately a 2% chance of finding that remaining Joker card. So, I mean, and that to me it doesn't sound very encouraging. Another form of prize indemnity competition, which is also very popular, is spin it to win it. I'll hand over to Tseho, who will tell you a bit more about it.
I'm smiling from ear to ear because this is my favorite slide, so I'm happy to present it. So spin it to win it, a game of chance. We all know and love the spinning wheel of luck. It is a game show staple. Think Wheel of Fortune, Spin the Wheel, and several others that do not come to mind right now. So in our example, we have a 1 million rand prize, and there are 2 rounds. So the name of the game in the first round is to land on the lucky section of the spin wheel. So we have $4 on the wheel, one of which must be landed on in order to move to the second round, which is the suitcase draw. So 10 people get to step up to the plate, but there is a twist. It is only the first person to land on $, that gets to move on to the suitcase draw. This means that if person number 3 is the first one to land on the $, then they alone move on to the suitcase draw. As for persons 4 to 10, they're sadly out of luck and do not get to be part of the suitcase draw, or part of the wheel spin. So the next round entails choosing between 3 suitcases, each of which contain a number of envelopes. Now, 1 envelope in each suitcase gives the 1 million rand prize. Now, we are able to place cover for the draw of the 1 million rand envelope. This is because the entire competition is purely a game of chance. The thing with prize indemnity at I2, we don't want to deal with guaranteed wins. So this is perfect for us. Now, spin wheels vary in size. So for our example, let's say that there is 48 sections in our spin wheel. This means that I do think it's worth mentioning that you also have to take into account the probability of even getting to the spin wheel, but that messes up the probabilities and it's just a lot simpler to just put it aside. So in our example, the participant has a 4 in 48 chance of landing on $. That's an 8.3% chance of getting into the suitcase draw. That's not so bad considering the actual odds of picking the 1 million rand from the suitcase. Although the story may be different if it was an airline statistic.
Well, I mean, just imagine. Ding, ding, ding. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is your pilot speaking. Thank you so much for flying Sunshine Airlines. This is just an announcement to notify you that we have an 8% chance of landing. If you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to contact one of the crew members. Thank you. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, no, I would sooner walk to Madagascar than get on that plane.
Me too.
So once the wheel is spun and all is said and done, we move on to the suitcase draw. There are different probabilities attached to picking the right envelope across suitcases, and they're as follows. Suitcase 1 has 15 envelopes, suitcase 2 has 20 envelopes, and suitcase 3 has 25 envelopes. The probability of drawing the R1,000,000 envelope in suitcase 1 is more favorable than with suitcase 3. So if we're saying that the odds if we say that the best odds lay with picking the suitcase with 15 envelopes, then you have a 33% chance of getting that best suitcase. So I had to go back to uni and my statistics. So if you're lucky enough to pick suitcase 1, you have a 0.19% chance of picking the R1,000,000 envelope. If you pick suitcase 2, you have a 0.14% chance of picking the R1,000,000 envelope out of the 20 in the suitcase. If fortune is not on your side and you choose suitcase 3 with 25 envelopes, you have a 0.11% chance of getting that R1,000,000 envelope. Now, these odds make ensuring the R1,000,000 draw an attractive risk from the view of I2, so you can just bring it on. And this also speaks to what Chris said about pure probability games being very attractive to the insurer. It helps us, the statistical information helps us set a fair premium.
Right, so just before we get to the prize that I know everyone's very eager for, just to sort of consolidate the basis of prize indemnity insurance at I2, if you are offering a prize to or are running competitions with individuals or teams, then I2's prize indemnity insurance cover is exactly the win that you need. Whether it's a competition based on pure probability or based on skill, make sure that the odds are always in your favor with I2's prize indemnity insurance cover. Now, for the moment we've all been waiting for, it is prize time. So what is the mystery prize? I'll quickly play you a video. Please. Here we go. So now you know what the prize is, and I have to say that I'm very jealous of, of the winner of this prize. So for today's iTuesday, we asked you to register yesterday between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., I think it was. And a winning time slot has been selected. So the winner had to have registered within the specified time slot. And so, drum roll, the winner of the 2 tickets to the 2021 Kailami 9-hour Intercontinental GT Challenge is Alan Nathan. Alan, are you within? Is Alan? I don't think Alan's within.
It doesn't look like he is, Christiana.
No. So we do have a runner-up. Is Ruan Prinsloo online with us today?
Hello, everyone.
Ruan, well done. Very well done. Congratulations.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Well done. So Ruan, we will be in contact with regards to your tickets. So congratulations. The lucky winner.
Perfect. I'll come and pick it up downstairs right now.
Awesome. So
Well done, everybody.
yeah, so that brings us to the end of our prize indemnity insurance presentation.
Thank you.
That's
wonderful. So can I just quickly jump in before everyone leaves? I just want to say a huge thank you to the two of you. You demonstrated exactly what I had said earlier about the graduate program. And the comments are just brilliant and wonderful. Thank you for all the meetings and the slog and the anxious stress last night and this morning. It was all worth it. It's been very well received. So lovely energy and very well presented. So thanks to the two of you for that effort. And thank you to everybody for joining us. And we look forward to talking prize indemnity in the new year with everybody with new ideas. And go and find those commercial and corporate customers of yours and start to sow some seeds. And I too can help you with prize indemnity insurance. Thanks, guys.
We could have done it without you, Greg. Thank you.